Hello, I am Yewande, and welcome to Knitting the Blues. I'm a knitter based in Johannesburg. I'd like to say a warm welcome to anyone who's chanced upon my channel for the first time. And if you're someone who watched my first episode, thanks for being here again. Thank you so much for people who left comments and said kind things. And I even got some emails and they were so heartwarming, So just want to say thank you so much. Really appreciate it. If you watch the video and if you really like it, please remember to click like and subscribe. It's very supportive of my endeavor here when you do that. With the second episode, I'm a little more prepared. My aunt, actually, who kindly watched my video and was very supportive. And so she was the one who told me, you must tell people to like and subscribe. And I said, you're 100% right. And I shouldn't be awkward about it. I should just go ahead and do that. And then she said, get a notebook. So Auntie Miriam, if you're watching, I got a notebook. By the way, I should say she's an incredibly talented crocheter. I didn't buy a new notebook. Who doesn't have a bunch of notebooks in a cupboard somewhere? So I looked through, I knew I had lots. And I looked through and this one really caught my fancy. And I think I would have gotten this at a festival I went to or a book thing I participated in. Or it's cute and it's my notebook. So today's episode is called Knitting for Others. And I thought of doing an episode like that. It was the kind of the convergence of many different things. I saw that at the local market that there was an advert for like it said, and I'll show the video I took, it says Knitter and Crochet Revolution or something like that. And I was like, yeah. So I thought that sounds like me. So it advertised that they were gathering and I decided to go. And when I went, I realized that the whole thing is part of a movement, actually. It's a movement linked to something called 67 Blankets. Which in itself is linked to something else called Nelson Mandela Day on the 18th of July. Every year, and I'm not even sure for how long, I'll put that information up when I research it. But every year we have Nelson Mandela Day, and it's a day I think of it as a day of service, a day of kindness, a day of acts of kindness and acts of service to the other. When I got to the event at the market, it's called the Bryanston Organic Market, I had the chance to sit with a few women and I brought my knitting, of course, because everybody was sitting around the tables and knitting. I'm going to actually slide in the short little interview we did just for you to, hear a bit from somebody who's involved with the project.
Hi, Yaku here, also known as Mr. Blankets. We're part of an organization called 67 Blankets for Nelson Mandela Day, hence the banner and blankets. I actually just got this donated by a lady sitting right over here. Her name is Claudia. Donated this to 67 Blankets. So that's what we're about. We're about making blankets, making scarves for people less fortunate than you and I. And we're about 12 years old now, founded by Carolyn Stain. Back in 2014, I believe, if I did the maths right now. She was given a challenge by Zangl to make 67 blankets for the following year, being 2015. She said, no, I can't do it. I don't have 67 friends. So she put it out onto Facebook, and the following day, hundreds of messages. I'm in, let's do this, hashtag. And that's where she learns about the hashtag and has to. So I joined her the following year, and I've been with her since 2015. And we have collected and distributed close on 170,000 blankets, all knitted and handmade with love. So if you want to be a part of what we do, find us on Facebook and connect with us and be a part of the big movement. Thank you very much for the interview, and thank you for what you're doing as well.
There's a section on the website where she shares about who she is, but she also talks about 67 blankets. So she says, we have also gone into correctional facilities over the years to help rehabilitate prison inmates by teaching them how to make blankets for people on the outside whose lives have been affected by crime and poverty. I am proud to say that to date, 67 Blankets has distributed well over 167,000 handmade blankets. and hundreds of thousands of scarves to those in need, setting 4 Guinness World Records in the process. So hearing about 67 blankets, then like it just sort of clicked for me, because I'd been thinking, oh, what should I do for my second episode? And I'd already thought, oh, well, I've knitted so much for other people. What if I talked a bit about what that's like? And I know that's like a conversation in the knitting community. Some people are like, I don't do gift knits. Other people are like, I love gift knits. And we're in winter now. You know, I think so much about warmth, and I think so much about people who are unhoused or just don't have the objects to keep them warm in this kind of weather. So, and for many people, they're very moved by that, and they want to knit and make things for people in those situations. But it just was this kind of happy marriage. I thought, hey, what if I talk a bit about, 67 blankets in the project, Nelson Mandela Day, and also then talk about what it means to knit for other people. Of course, knitting for people you know well, but also knitting for people you don't know at all and may very well never meet. When I thought about this idea of knitting, one of the other things that immediately popped into my mind, my father was a writer himself, but also an incredible reader. And he had a real abiding love for Khalil Gibran. He was a scholar of Arabic texts. So I think some of his love for Khalil Gibran's work came from that. My dad had this sort of deep appreciation for the text. And so from very young, he would read to me. And I remember the quote, which I might get wrong, but it's, someone asks the prophet to talk about giving. And the prophet says, you give but little when you give little when you give of your possessions. It is when you give of yourself that you truly give. And I always think about this phrase or this quote, and in many different circumstances, but I do think of it a lot in knitting, because I do feel as if, of course, it's an object. It's a possession, I suppose. But to me, there just seems no question that when I do this for someone and hand it to them, I have given of myself. So I guess I'm just trying to score some points for knitting things and give. But I guess any kind of making, because you've put your hands on it and you've put yourself in it, and so. Yeah, anyway, I will actually talk about a number of the things I've knitted for people. I've made a lot of things for people and I've given them. And I did say in my first episode that that's how I started knitting. I was knitting for my children and for friends. And I get so much joy out of it's funny. I do obviously buy people gifts all the time, but I get so much joy out of making something for somebody and giving it to them. And of course, they're gifts, so I don't have all of them here. The ones I have here are obviously maybe the ones for my kids that they're not wearing at the moment, my husband, and then I'm gonna share a whole bunch of pictures as well up on the on the screen. But before that, let me talk about what I'm wearing. So today I am wearing this t-shirt. I'll take it off a tiny bit just so you can see. It's winter here, like I've said many times. But so I'm wearing it with just a long sleeve t-shirt underneath. But this is the Tolsta tee by Rebecca Clow. It's my first pattern I've ever made of Rebecca's. I really like her. I love her podcast and I just love her vibe. And I love a lot of her patterns and I've favorited a bunch of them. It just so happens that, I haven't knit anything of hers yet. But I think, when I made this, I hadn't made anything of hers yet. And I think I will be making many more things by her, including several more versions of this because, oh my goodness, I love it so much. I've worn it every day. I knitted it in. I don't have any yarn left. At least I didn't see any in my kind of yarn place where I keep yarn. But I do have the tag. It's a new yarn that I hadn't. Oh, I wonder if you can see. It says once off. So it's a yarn. I went to a market, like a yarn market, and it was really lovely. It was at a wonderful venue in the city center here in Johannesburg. And I saw this lady, and she was selling. Sorry that her name doesn't. It says Beth Annie, but Beth Annie is the name of this particular yarn base or this range. So I don't know if that has anything to do with the owner or the maker, but the yarn dyer. But anyway, it's 100% cotton. It is 2-ply light fingering. It comes in balls of 238 meters. And I she only had, so she had beautiful colors that look like the label, very, pastel, which are lovely colors that I don't wear those colors, or I don't wear them much. So I'm not drawn to buy them. But then she had this dark, I don't know if it is, it's sort of I see it as green, and then later I thought it's gray, and then later I thought it's blue, but it's that range of color. And I just like, oh wow, I'm gonna get that. And I think I got 2 or 3 balls. I can't remember now. Remember, I'm not very good at remembering the number of balls I get, but I got that, and then I found that I could make a Tolsta tee with it, and I mixed it. The stripes you're seeing, which are totally my invention. I think I wear it and I'll do a little twirl with it there, but I mixed it with this, I want to say Barbara Streisand, but it might not be. It's from Cowgirl Blues. It's their linen blend. So I think it's got linen and it's got a bit of wool in it. And I liked it. It's nice. It's very nice. I wouldn't make a whole garment out of this for myself. It's just, so I'm using it. I'm using it slowly. I've used it in a gift I made actually for a friend of mine. I used some of it here and I used some of it there. And I thought, I'm going to use some of it in here because of the green. I thought it brought the green out nicely. So I made these three stripes and also, ended off with some striping there. And it's the first time I've kind of done stripes. I learned how to do the jogless stripes, which was wonderful. And I thought, I'm going to do this again and again. And I love this shirt. So it's knit in fingering, which was kind of brutal, but just such a beautiful effect. It seemed like it took a while, but I love it. I'll do it again. I loved it so much. The pattern itself is top down. It's raglan, just your typical raglan sweater shape. Raglan shape. Just a wonderful pattern. Really love Rebecca Clow's work. And I think, her patterns she's very well known and her stuff is very popular. I will knit many of these. And it's probably a nice, we're going to talk about gifts. It's probably a nice gift because it's not a full garment. If it's fingering, it takes a while, but you could do it in DK. Her pattern, it comes with fingering instructions and DK. She has eyelet variations. She obviously has stripe variations. She's got a lot. I think her popularity is in that you buy one pattern from her, but you could make so many different versions of that from her own instructions, not even your own kind of tweaks yourself. What else am I wearing? I'm wearing the Felix cardigan by Amy Christoffers. Very nice pattern. I was convinced about this pattern, I think, watching the Wool Needles Hands podcast, because she talked about her making hers, and many people talked about it, and it's supposed to be simple. And I love lace, but I just need to say, lace always shows me flames. Lace. There's no lace I've attempted that hasn't shown me flames. And this lace showed me lots of flames. I mean, there are so many mistakes in this thing. If you look hard enough, you'll find them. I like to think that if you don't look too hard, it's not a deal. It's not a big deal. And I wear it and I love it. But I know that there are errors, and I had little saves I had to do. I jimmied things a bit. I won't even go into it because I can talk about this pattern another time. I won't go into lots of detail apart from to say I love it. I knit it in harmony again, African expressions. I say again because I use that yarn a lot, and in fact I have a little bit of it left here. This is like what I have left, and I had even more left, and I made some, talk about knitting for others, I made some fingerless mittens for a friend of mine's kids. I won't go into one thing because I'm talking about raglan. This is as well raglan. So anybody watching, learning about raglan, it's basically that way of increasing. And you see it in t-shirts. It's just your very standard design for how to open up from a neck to arms and body, and back to body. And this raglan is really cute and kind of infamous because of the way that she designs the raglan around the lace. Very clever. But so I kept saying, but I like lots of space. So I kept going in the pattern. I kept going. And of course I got what we call bat wings. I just got this, it was over here and it was way too deep by the time I was then going to join for the body. So I had to do sweater surgery. which is why I will talk about this in another podcast. This is my one and only experience of sweater surgery, and my goodness, was it an experience? But it's fine, and I don't even think I've blocked this, by the way. But yet, some things I just don't bother blocking. I did block this. This one I blocked. But I did the sweater surgery here somewhere. And sweater surgery, for anyone, it's literally where you have to cut your knitting because you've just knit too much and you need to cut a bunch out. But you don't just go around cutting your knitting. There's a way that you do it. And I was helped by all the zillion videos online about how to do sweater surgery. But it kind of works, I think on the back it's a bit more obvious, but none of us can see the back. At least I certainly can't. So it doesn't bother me. So that's what I'm wearing. I've said so much, but I will say one more thing, which is that I'm wearing some knitted socks as well for myself. I won't talk too much about them. This is a tin can knit pattern. I think it's their Rye pattern. I love their sock patterns, but I did the Rye, and I've knit the Rye a zillion times, as you will see shortly. But that really is what I'm wearing. Oh, I forgot to say one thing, which is the buttons. This was my second time doing buttons. There's another cardigan I made, but I do love the buttons part. It kind of gives you one other feature to fuss over. And these are just wooden buttons I got I think I got them from Arthur Bales, and they're lovely. I actually went around the house there's a bunch of them all over here, but I put some of them in here. And a friend that I knit some socks for, and I'll tell you about her in a moment, gave this to me as a gift, which I thought was very, very sweet. It's a kind of a basket, as you can see. It's lined, so it's got this inside. It has this gray lining. I love this. I just love this pattern and the colors. It's by a local company called Skinny Leminx, made in South Africa. I'm going to talk about the things I have physically, and then I will talk about a few of the things I don't have with me anymore. I, very early on, I'm just going to take a bunch of these out because they're all the same thing. This is my son's, it's a bit small. I made this, I found this pattern. It's a free pattern. I'm putting the details up on the screen because it doesn't come to mind right now. And it's a fairly easy pattern, as you can see, the trusted garter. It's knit very interestingly. You basically knit a rectangle and then you seam it at the back, and you manage to, you reduce, you knit the rectangle and then you do reduction so that in the end it looks like a kind of a long, like that typical house when you think of draw a house with the roof like that. But with quite a long rectangular body to the house, if I can put it that way. And so you seam the back, and then you seam the front, and that's how you get your little foot place. This is a bigger one I made for my husband. In fact, I made my husband several. This was way too big. I just want to show you that it doesn't always work out. So I did this one, and I kept thinking, I want him to fit. I want it to fit, and it's just way too big. He doesn't mind. He puts 3 of them on. It gets pretty cold, and he's like, he doesn't mind, and he wears them. He loves them. I feel a bit embarrassed. These I've made a long time ago. Seems like anyway, and they're made from a local acrylic yarn. I've forgotten the name now, that I bought very inexpensively. And this tells you how much they look at that. I thought let me show you, it's not all prettiness. So I promised him I'd make him some more, and maybe with slightly more, worker horse. In fact, I got some plotolopi, and I wonder if plotolopi might not be a good thing to make. I wondered if it would be scratchy, but then I thought he's not very sensitive to wool in that way. So I think I'm going to make that for him, the plotolopi. Now maybe I'll reinforce it with some mohair, just really make it hardy so that it can last. But it is on the feet, and our feet do a lot of work for us. So, that there are some holes in it is perfectly, but there's this one as well. I should just take them away from him, shouldn't I? But he banned me from doing so. So I've made these for like friends. I must have, I don't know, I've made maybe 10 to 15 of these for family, for my sister-in-law, for myself. Just looking to see if I have any more of that particular one here. I don't, but these are the ones that are in the house still. And sometimes I think of making a bunch and keeping them by my front door for when people visit in the winter or something, and they can, but I haven't done that. It's still just an idea. So that's one of the oldest gift knits I've done. Again, it's a lovely pattern. It's free. I recommend it. It's cute. It takes no time at all. I remember, in fact, knitting this in an evening, 2 of them, one for each of my kids, because they had some school event where they had to go in their pajamas, and I didn't feel like buying them, going to the shops and buying slippers. I thought, I'll just make you slippers, and I did it in the evening, and they could wear it in the morning. So that is that. Now, on the theme of warm things for my kids, let's stay with them for a while, because they're the benefactors of a lot of warm things. Since we're on feet, let's stay with feet. So these are very cute. I made these so one of my sons loves pink, and I always, I don't like pink. Let me say this: before I met him, I didn't like pink, and as I've known him and been around him, I've grown to like pink. He's really taught me the beauty of pink, and I love making him things that are pink, and he. Like, this is real hot pink. So I remember buying this yarn. I have no idea. I can't tell you what it is, but I traveled for work again. I think I traveled for writing work. I went for a reading in Switzerland. I went to Geneva, I think. I went to, in fact, to speak to some students and to do a reading. And I went into the shop and I bought this pink. And the gray is actually cashmere that my boyfriend at the time, now husband, bought for me when he was in Mongolia with his own work. So this doesn't fit my son anymore. This is particularly small now, but I couldn't part with it. I just couldn't part with it. So I'm keeping it for posterity. Okay, so I need to move faster. I'm really going pretty slow on the socks, but I do love making socks. I mean, it's funny, and maybe I need to get one of those summer of socks. I don't stray. Like you can see, it's the same sock. This is the tin can, Rye. This is the tin can, Rye. I mix it up a bit with the different yarns. This is the tin can, Rye. So I don't stray in terms of patterns. I don't know why. I thought, oh gosh, this has a hole. I just saw. Sorry, I'm opening this one, and they're a bit, they're worn. They're loved at the moment, but my son is I'm going to try and repair it, which is not something I've done before. And I've also promised the boys that I need to make them some more socks. But something I want to tell you about both my sons, they like the sock to hit their knees, so sometimes you think, let me make a cute little sock. It takes forever because you're knitting the length of their legs, and they happen to have pretty long legs. Sometimes I'm like, guys, I'm done, sorry. And then they're like, oh, mama. I'm like, sorry, guys, I can't. I'm done with this sock. So so I do a lot of socks, and I've done some socks for my husband as well, and then I did, while we're on socks, I did a pair of socks for my good friend Mandy. And she's the one who gave me the skinny laminx basket. And she bought me some wool as well, and I thought, I'm going to make you something. So I made her these pair of socks. My thing with knitting for others is it's a combination of feeling exhilarated because you're making this beautiful thing and you're excited for them to receive it and love it. Like feeling anxious because they might not love it. Feeling anxious because it might not fit. Feeling anxious because they might not know how to take care of it. And I'm going to put some pictures of what I made for her.
And every time I wear them, I feel grounded and filled with the love that I know my friend has put into every stitch.
Then I've covered some necks. These are my boys, but I've covered other necks as well. And this was for my son. This wasn't a pattern. I just made it up. I just did ribbing, and then I just knit stockinette, and then I did ribbing. I just loved the colors. I think I had some yarns left over, and I thought these colors were good for him. But then what I found was it was curling. And so I then went and found some fabric. And he's car mad, this son of mine. He's just car mad. But I found some fabric, and I think I joined 2 pieces of fabric together, and I made a backing. It's not, I mean, I'm not going to pretend like it's super, super neat, but it would do. And yeah, I made this. I need to say, he doesn't wear this that much. And I wanted to say something else. I don't make garments for my kids. Those of you out there who knit, when you make garments for your children, bless you. But it's partly that they're going to grow so fast and that they'll outgrow this precious thing I've made, which breaks my heart. And it's partly, my kids in particular are cold for about 5 seconds every year. Like we're now in the dead of winter, and finally I see them, reaching for warm things. And I'm like, oh, thank goodness. But it's really a fight every morning to convince them to wear long sleeves, put on a pullover, so to make, I can imagine how lovely it is to make this small little garment, but time is tight. I'm happy to make accessories, and I make plenty, and I'm going to make them a new batch of socks. I've also I made a cowl. I think my son is wearing that at school today, so I don't have it here. I've made, these are really sweet. These I made a while ago. I mean, these are about 2 years old, a bit fluffy, and it's got some pilling and so on. And I made this, I don't even remember, but it's again a tin can knit pattern. I'll put the exact one. And I'm really assuming I made it out of like soul or one of the African expressions, fingering yarns. They wear these a lot, the fingerless mitts. And my heart just swells each time they reach for them. He didn't wear this, but his brother wore his pair. That's why I only have one this morning. Gloves. So I found a lovely pattern. There it is there. And again, I've probably made 5 or 6 or 7 of these. These are my husband's pair. And it's a very simple gift if you're thinking of making some gifts. And then maybe just lastly with the kids, I made this again. I've probably made maybe 3 sets of beanies. As their heads have gotten bigger, I made beanies when they weren't born yet, and then I made another pair, and then another set, and then I've made this set again. Tin can knits. They just have lovely simple patterns. They have this pattern where they do with the ribbing, and and then I just play around and change the yarn as I like. And again, this would be African expressions for the most part. But it was so long ago, I don't really remember. And then I thought this was very cute to talk about this. I made this when the boys were still in my stomach, in my belly. And this is and I made it out of cashmere. Again, cashmere that I think the same bunch of cashmere that my partner brought for me from Mongolia. I'm just doing the buttons here. And it is, it's a baby bag. I made 2 of them. I think I gave the other one away to a friend. But it's interesting when you have twins that you can actually give stuff away and keep one set for posterity. Like I say, I mean, this I just super soft. I mean, I guess I could unravel it here and make something else for them. There's a thought, but I think it's sweet, and I would put them in there. They were born in August, so nice memories. And while I made a ton of toys for kids as well. And little baskets for, young children that I know and love, and, for their birthdays. I've made dolls, and I made my niece an owl, and I've made like a stegosaurus. And I remember I made my friend a little pocket mouse. And I don't know if these have stood the test of time. At some point, I wanted to make the kids a ball that is good for babies. They would have been a year or a year and a half. This is falling apart. It is a bit falling apart now, but it's a lovely pattern. I'm going to put it up there. Fairly fiddly, I should say. Fairly fiddly. Because since it's falling apart, I can dismantle it. This is what you make. A bunch of them, and then you sew them together. So when it's falling apart, it's the sewing together that's falling apart, not the actual knitting. And you see these little things. This is how I sewed them all together. And then I've made a rabbit. And the story with that rabbit is I knew I was expecting twins, so I said, okay, I'm going to make some soft toys for them, and I'm going to make these 2 rabbits. Well, I made 1 rabbit, and boy, did that take a lot. I said, well, I will only be making 1. And it's funny, I mean, who knows? But when the kids were then born and when it was safe, I started kind of introducing the rabbit to them to see who took to the rabbit. And one of my sons particularly took to the rabbit. It's still his favorite toy. It's falling apart. It's falling apart. I'm going to show you a picture of, and I've had to resurrect Bunny from near death several times. And there will come a day when he's beyond resurrection. I mean, currently he lives in a bag because he's got his pieces all over the place. It's a bit of I think of the, what's that lovely story? The horse, the old horse. I'll put the name of the story there. But it's a bit of that sort of story of the old horse. And he's just been loved to pieces, literally. He cannot spend a night without Bunny. So if he's in bed and Bunny somehow is not in bed with him, you need to go and find Bunny. But the one last thing I wanted to talk about is what I knit for my husband. I knit my husband a sweater. I knit him the ToF Sweater from a designer I absolutely adore, Eri shimizu. I just find her work charming and elegant. So I knit my partner. It was folded in his cupboard, so if you see a few lines, that's why. If you see a few lines, it's a very simple sweater, like you can see. It's very there's nothing remarkable about it in the sense that it's a drop shoulder sweater. That's what you call the drop shoulder. It's knit in stockinette, plain stockinette, all the way through. What are some of the elements I love about it? It's got this long ribbing. Remember, I love ribbing. So it's got this long ribbing at the bottom that I really like. It's got fairly long ribbing in the cuffs that I really like. The cuffs are bound off tubular, so that's fine. And the bottom is, I think this is bound off in I-cord. And then the top is tubular. Well, the top is tubular again. It's a typical drop shoulder in the sense that typical. I mean, what do I know? But for my own few drop shoulders, it's knit from the back. You start with just a few stitches and you widen into the trapeze shape, and then you keep going. Sorry, I might put a few words. It's not like I remember. I don't remember pattern instructions. I knit this a while ago. It was lovely. The pickup, what do I love about this? Something so simple, but look at that shoulder seam. I just think it's exquisite. It's just in this very simple garment. You get that shoulder seam. You get the junction, very tidy pickup there. And then the last bit that's fun, but you have this faux seam running all the way down the arm and even into the ribbing. And it's just slip stitch, just a series of slip stitches. And I really like it. I mean, I just like Eri Shimizu's stuff. And then when I saw she advertised this, I thought, I'm going to get it. And I thought, this is a great pattern. I'm yet to make one for myself, but I want to. And it's the kind of thing I think when I start making, this was the first garment, and a full garment I knit for someone else. And it was, my husband wasn't with me at the time. He was overseas, and I had taken some of his measurements, and I kept wondering if it was going to fit him. And I knew this was his color. So this is he and I share a bit of the same, I think this color looks great on him. It's this kind of navy color. It's African Expressions, Harmony. But it was this thing of, is it going to fit? Is he going to like it? The fact that he lives with me meant I didn't worry about how he's going to take care of it, because I'm around and I can help him take care of it. I'm part of a blended family, and his youngest son from that union saw him in it and asked him if he would ask me to make one for him. I was incredibly flattered, requesting a hand knit garment. That remains the highest compliment at the moment that's ever befallen me as a knitter. But he asked, and of course I agreed instantly. And so I made, and he doesn't live with us either. So he visited, and I took the odd measurement, and I started making him in a different color. I didn't take any pictures of this, and I don't want to harass the young lad, so I'm not going to ask him to send me pictures, but it's in a lighter blue. He asked for a lighter blue. And so I've made it twice so far. And I think I'll make it again and again for myself. When the boys are of a certain age, I think this is the pattern I will make for them. If I make something for my sister-in-law or my niece or nephew or my brother, one of my brothers, this is probably the pattern I would go to make, because it's drop shoulder. So I think it's quite forgiving as a drop shoulder. It's not raglan. You see the problems I come on with raglan. Can you imagine doing a gift of raglan for somebody that you can't measure them and you can't try on, particularly if they're in another part of the world? So I think I would. And what I did with making the gift for the young boy is I asked him, I kept one of his favorite sweaters. And that was really clever, because he didn't mind parting with it for a few weeks. And it meant that I could measure it against that sweater. And he loves oversized. So that's the other thing, like understanding how people like to wear their garments. Some people like something very oversized. Some people like something very tight. So I love making things for people, and I've made these 2 garments for people. But I can see that, it takes a bit of planning and thought and care. The one anxiety I have with that sweater, that as I put it in, I think I made a post and I said, it's left my jurisdiction. The one concern I have is I just think, oh my gosh, this is 100%, it is superwash, but even being superwash, it can overstretch. So I put a few instructions for him, and I tested it in the machine, because I said, okay, he's not going to wash it by hand, and I don't want to give his mother, drama. So I tested it in the machine with a bag, like with a net bag, and with the wool wash, and it was fine. But then I said, you must dry it flat. That's the one thing. Like, it will stretch out of existence. I partly don't want to ask about it, because I feel like it's probably, I wouldn't recognize it if I saw it. But that's the thing. It's none of my business. And this is the thing of knitting for others. Like, you've made it, you hand it over, and it's gone. It's like it's an offering. I've just kind of, it's out there. You let that go. And I think that is everything. I think it's time to say goodbye. I want to say thank you so much for watching this episode. Maybe you're thinking of knitting something for someone. Maybe some of the patterns I've talked about would be good ideas, but there's so many wonderful ideas on Ravelry and just on the internet. Maybe you're somebody who regularly knits for people. And if that's the case, I mean, I salute you. And there's absolutely a joy in knitting for oneself. And then there's a different kind of joy in knitting for others. Feel free to tell me about, any of your favorite patterns for gift knits. I actually asked permission from somebody who sent me an email after watching my first podcast. And I asked her if I could quote some of the message she sent me, because it was actually really beautiful, and it was all about knitting for others. She was talking about her mother, and I'm going to read it. It's here on my laptop, and I'm just reading from my laptop. So when I look to the side, that's what I'm doing. And she says here, she says that her mom knits furiously all day long. She said she knits mostly baby blankets with the same wool and same pattern, and she's done that for years and years and years. She loves hearing that someone she knows is having a baby and then sets aside one of the multiple blankets she's made for them. She keeps making them and gets so much joy seeing the babies wrapped in them too. And I just love that image. I love that idea that she's, she just sort of makes these items. And I love this idea, like it's the same thing. It's the same wool. It's a bit like me and the same sock pattern. It's like, this is the perfect sock pattern in the whole wide world. We don't need any other sock pattern. I'm just kidding. I know there are a lot of sock knitters that will come after me for saying that, but it's just, you find something that is somehow touches you or is just right for you. And you just work it, and it sounds like, I just love this image of her mom, knitting these blankets and knitting the same pattern and knitting it with the same wool, and then having these blankets around her and having them ready for when more and more people find that they have a baby and they need a blanket to keep warm. So thank you so much for sharing that. So I thought I would update you on my pinboard. So I'd mentioned that on my pinboard is Noma Ndlovu and that dress. And I'm like just convincing myself that I can possibly make the Zukanya dress and that I'd make it out of one of the African expressions. I need to check Zukanya dress. Is it fingering or is it Oh my gosh, fingering would be just devastating, but I think it could be fingering or it might be DK. I'll check and I'll put it up so that we know. But I'm kind of working. I put it in my queue, I think. I put it in my queue or in my favorites. I can't remember which one, but I'm working my way towards imagining knitting it. And I want to write to Nomandlovu and say, hi, I'm Yewande and I would really love to be able to interview you. So I think I'll do that this week. I mentioned already that I reached out to Mincy of Naughty Habits. And so I hope that I have the opportunity to interview her. And if I do, I'll make that an entire episode just on her and Naughty Habits and her work. And then I talked about the South African mohair industry, which remains very much on my mind. And I wrote, in fact, to the industry, and it's Mohair South Africa. And I got a response today because I said, hey, I'd love to understand the industry and interview somebody. And maybe I live in Joburg, I could do a little road trip and come out to where you are. So they're going to get back to me. So the last one, Indigo Love. So I was joking with a friend because she said, she talked about Abubakar Fofana. I'm just looking at our messages here. She talked about Abubakar Fofana, and I had seen that an Indigo course was advertised. I mean, it's in Minneapolis, but it also costs like $900 and something US dollars. But he's this incredible Indigo master. And so I had this absolute daydream that I could somehow convince him to come down to South Africa and give a workshop here and not charge $900 US dollars, just by the way, just something slightly more appropriate for our rand. But wouldn't that be amazing? I mean, you can always dream. Part of the pinboard is just to also dream. So dream with me. That really is the end of our episode. Thank you for sitting with me. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Yeah, if you liked what you heard and what you saw, please give it a thumbs up and please subscribe. Things like that make a real difference to my endeavor here. So I really appreciate it. I hope you take care and I look forward to seeing you again right here